To save or not to save? That is the question. Hello everybody, I'm Roadblock, and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm expecting this one to be pretty quick today. I do have to wake up in a couple of hours and drive for 12 hours, so yeah, that's gonna be fun. But I was thinking about sitting here, for the last 10 minutes, like thinking about, okay, what do I want to make a video about today? And I have this one that's been floating around in my head for a little bit, and I decided that I'll pull the trigger on it, and that's like to save or not to save, right? And so I really wanted to talk about saving resources because there's a lot of information about like how to efficiently spend your resources, when to spend, when not to. But I think it's important to understand that you can't look at Raid with a general mindset, right? If you look at Raid and say, well, generally I'm gonna do this, and this, it doesn't always apply to your account. So whether or not you need to save depends on what you're looking to do with your account. And so on my main account here, obviously I'm going for the fusion, right? So I'm going to be spending resources, but I've skipped the last couple of 2x's. You can see like my gem count. We've got 2,561 gems. This is, coming from a point where I was sub 1,000 for a very long period of time. And I just skipped a whole bunch of events and I was saving my resources and stockpiling my resources. And, it's the same thing with shards. You want to try and stockpile your shards, but that depends on how you run your account. Obviously, whales, krakens, they're gonna pop their shards whenever. But listen up, I just got a new promo link that you can use to follow along with me on my latest free-to-play adventure and get a free Elenaril as well as 3 more powerful epics as you level up. Here's how to do it. Log out of Plarium Play and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get Elenaril right after signing up, as well as Fayne, Uugo, and Tagoar as you progress through Raid. Click on my link right now and let's crush this together. If you're a low spender, if you're free to play, my recommendation has always been, at least in the early stages of your account, to focus on 2x events. And what do I mean by a 2x event? For those of you that aren't aware, these are going to be where you get a double chance of hitting a legendary. So what that means is with Ancients, we would get a 1% chance. With the Voids, we would get a 1% chance. Primals would go up to, well, for Primals, you want to do it when you have a 1% chance of Mythical, not Legendaries. And then for Sacreds, you would get a 12% chance. Obviously, Mercy factors into those percentages as well. Essentially saying, oh, well, after you've pulled 12 Sacreds and you haven't hit a Legendary, then they go up by 2%, and so on and so forth. That's the general rule of thumb when I just said to avoid those, and that's important. So that would be, if somebody was just to ask me a blanket statement without knowing your account, without knowing anything, that is the answer that I would give. But that's not always the right answer, and it's important to understand that there's going to be different times, different opportunities, right? For the longest time, and I keep trying to do this and failing, I've been wanting to save my void shards. I've been wanting to set my floor, my minimum void shards, to be around 100 void shards. Probably 120 is maybe the better floor to have these days, but 100 void shards was my goal for a long time, because if I could get up to 100, I could probably, if I needed to push a couple funds in to get to 120 or 130 for a guaranteed void legendary down the line, I could potentially do that. I've gotten away from that because they haven't done a guaranteed for a void. I know they did one recently, but it wasn't a void that I was interested in. So I've kind of gotten away from that, but it all depends on what you need on your account. Now, on my main account, I don't really care about non-void legendaries anymore. If we take a look at the index and we take a look at the roster of non-void legendaries, none of the non-void legendaries in this faction really appeal to me. And I want to put one caveat in there for you guys, because this is important to understand, is I'm not talking about faction unity champions. Obviously, those are going to be like in their own bracket. They're technically non-void legendaries, but they are a separate entity. So if I don't have that champion, then yes, I want them, but I can't pull for them regularly anyways. So we're not really concerned with them. When it comes to high elves, I would like Othorion, and that's really about it from this faction. I do think Lonatharo is pretty good. This account did not go for the fusion for Lysanthier. Did that on my free-to-play. But yeah, that's pretty much, Othorion is pretty much the only one here, right? And I've kind of made my point, so we'll kind of stop here. I'm not that concerned with Cupidus. So yeah, nobody really in this faction that I'm like super eager to get. Maybe Corvus, but I don't think it's that important, right? And so I've kind of made my point that there aren't that many non-void champions that I really care about these days. And so that leads me to really want to save those resources. So I don't just want to pull on a 2x Ancients, for example, or even a 2x Sacreds, unless there's more value to be had, meaning a fusion that I'm going for, or maybe they're doing some secondary event where I can double dip. Maybe the champion chase has a really good reward in it that I want, right? That would really be the only thing to kind of push me to pull during those events, just because of where my account is. So for a younger account, like my free-to-play account, I know I haven't touched that in a couple months, but that particular account is still at the point where I would pull during every 2x for shards, because I'm going to gain something potentially, right? And so there might even be some epics still on that account that I want, and there's certainly going to be legendaries on that account that I want, particularly support champions with a cleanse, revive, block debuffs type stuff is really what I'm looking for over on that account. And I've been trying to farm those for a while, and it's ultimately kind of what killed that account a little bit, because I was just like, I can't. So annoyed, so frustrated that I couldn't get really one of those game-changing champions. It was really holding me back. So, but yeah, I would be pulling all of the time on that account. But on this account, I'm definitely in the point where I'm trying to save. I'm trying to be more resourceful with my shards, etc., right? But it goes beyond that. Like I already mentioned, gems. Saving gems is a big part of Raid Shadow Legends. I think it's very important to understand. I've talked about this in other videos. I view gems as energy. I think it's very important to treat them as such. I will warn really quickly, since we're talking about gems, I very, 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 very rarely, especially now, I just told you how much I don't care about regular legendaries. I'm not going to spend these resources on these Ancients, right? I wouldn't spend gems on Ancients. It's not worth it. In my opinion, I think gems are a great substitute for energy, so I tend to save my gems and then use them in energy. In fact, at the beginning of the fusion, at the beginning of today, I had about 3,000 gems, and I went down to about 2,500 to do some points farming for Clan v Clan, and I did too much. I'm at 440,000. I only wanted to hit 400,000 because that's what gets me this milestone for personal reward. So that was my original goal. I went well over that goal, of course, but I was also doing fusion stuff. We had dungeon divers and things like that. So I was more worried about completing dungeon divers, and I got Clan v Clan points along the way. So, but yeah, basically gems were my tool to do Clan v Clan. And it's the same thing. I'm of the mind that I like to save my books for Clan v Clan. I actually tend to save them not only for my regular Clan v Clan, but also, more importantly, personal rewards Clan v Clans. As you can see, my clan tries very hard to win personal rewards Clan v Clan, so I do try to save my books for those. I even went so far, I've had Carnage ready to summon for like 3 weeks, and I've been saving him for this personal rewards Clan v Clan, which got me a ton of points. So I now have Carnage, but so it's all about saving. And I think the important thing to think about is when you're playing this game, if you're playing on a low spend, if you're playing free to play, if you've been a spender and now you're backing off of that, I think it's very important to try and understand what is the reason behind saving, right? We've got some events going on right now. I don't want any of these champions in particular, you know. I'm not there. Yes, there's that part of like, oh, I got to collect them all, right? But I don't necessarily just want to pull champions just to collect, right? I personally want to pull champions to make my account stronger. I already have Rhodos, really the only kind of worthwhile one in that group. I'm not knocking anybody, just for the level of my account. I don't know that anyone else is going to make or break it. Here, I would say that Thor, I keep doing that. Odin is definitely one that I want very, very badly, but I track my Mercy. So over here, oh yeah, this is bugged out. Sorry, just ignore that. But I do track my Mercy on RSL Helper. I'm not currently using RSL Helper because it caused my game crashed while I was doing Chimera, and I'm actually up way later than I originally wanted to be because I had to run my Chimera again. In fact, I took a shorter key. It's a whole thing, but either way. Now, the one thing that I think people maybe save or don't quite understand maybe how it works a little bit is silver. I don't have a problem if you think you should save your silver, but I'm also of the mindset that this is something that you can earn with gems, but don't earn it the way that you think. Yes, you can go in the gem shop, and yes, you can buy silver with gems. But I'm going to tell you that you're going to get, in my opinion, and I don't know the math on it, but I think you're going to get way more than 4 million silver off of 1,400 gems running campaign than you will just spending it for a pile of silver here in the shop. So I've never once have I bought silver using gems from the shop. I would, if there was ever that situation where I was that desperate for silver, I would use these gems to run campaign and get energy. I would turn the gems into energy, turn the energy into campaign farming, and get resources from there, or spider farming as well, because you know your resources from spider sell for quite a bit. So in fact, what did I spend? I spent about 500 gems. This isn't a perfect analogy because, so they're just selling the blues. That's 844,000, and that's only 13 of the pieces. So that's, you know, approximately 7 of the runs that I did. So yeah, you can get a lot of silver. I need to go through and sort through a lot of those right now, but I'm keeping a lot of blue. I don't really want to keep a lot of the blue rings from the event dungeon, but I just didn't want to get rid of them here on camera, and I don't want this video to be too long because I need to go to sleep. So, but I really wanted to talk about saving because I think it's an important part of Raid Shadow Legends that not enough people consider or talk about. I think it's, honestly, I joke about this game and call it, you know, wait Shadow Legends, save Shadow Legends, right? There's so many different kind of nicknames that you can kind of associate with the fact that saving in this game is an important piece. And it's not just saving for fusions, and I see that all the time where people are like, oh well, I'm saving right now because the fusion blah blah blah. It's like, you can skip multiple fusions, like you can just save if you don't need that champion. And I say need, like damage dealers. Let's talk about the current fusion as an example. This current fusion out damages or does damage close to Thor. Thor being one of my best damage dealers on the account, I would like to have more options for Hydra and champions that are similarly as good as Thor, especially for Hydra. And I think he's going to be super good in Hydra. If you've seen any of the videos out there about that, you know, that's a champion that I want. Now, Titus is a champion that I would have wanted as well, but unfortunately I was unable to do it. So I saved some resources there. There are definitely fusions that I think are totally fine to skip. I don't think you need to do every fusion, and I think fusions are relative to what you need on your account. Lady Noelle is a good champion, a really good champion, and she probably would have been useful on this account even, but I didn't need her. And given that it was over the holidays and I was partly out of town for that fusion as well, that was one that I didn't want to press. And so it's all about what you need on your account and what's important to your account. And I think it's that, you know, it's very important to understand that saving resources in this game goes a very, very long way, and it can give you a lot of power. If you skip a couple of bad fusions, if you save up your gems, if you The only thing that you shouldn't save, we'll talk about that in a second. There is one thing you shouldn't save, but if you do save up these resources, they can really empower you when you get into these moments where it's like, well, I kind of want to go for this thing, but I don't have the resources to, and I don't want to spend money right now. You can change that mentality by having those resources, by saving. And like I said, my goal has always been to save 100 void shards, and I'm terrible at it, and that's mostly because I want to make content. If I wasn't a content creator, I probably wouldn't spend my voids as easily as I do, but sometimes coming up with videos is really hard. Sometimes when it's really hard to come up with a video, you end up talking about saving resources in Raid Shadow Legends. So, okay, well, I've talked enough about this. I feel like I've kind of made my point, but I want to, what are your guys' methodologies? What are your policies? Oh, I forgot to almost talk about the one thing that you shouldn't save, and that is energy. Now, I'm very guilty of this, especially on this account, but I do think that if at all possible, you should do what you can to spend your energy when you can and stay at or below, not even at, to stay below that 130 energy limit, because you're just kind of wasting resources. At a certain point, you kind of get on an account and you're like, well, okay, it doesn't really benefit me that much. But there was a period of time where I had a ton of energy and I had nothing to do with it, and so I just ran a whole bunch of Minotaur and got caught up on masteries on many of my champions who were not mastered. And we're talking like really good ones, like Commodus didn't have all his masteries. I went ahead and got those. Empress didn't have all his masteries. I went ahead and got those. There were a lot of like really good champions on my account that it's like, you didn't have masteries? What are you doing? I still haven't even spent them, and I just used this guy in arena like 30 times today. I forgot to spend these masteries that I went and farmed on Lord Fabian, right? And so yeah, it's something that I took that moment of like, you know what, I'm not doing this fusion, I have energy, let's spend it. So I think that energy is something you should be spending whenever possible. Artho Helper helps me do that because I can set it up to farm Minotaur over a period of time. I can set it up to farm different dungeons like the Sand Devil and Phantom Shogun's Grove and things like that. So there's that's a good tool. I haven't made a video on Artho Helper in a while, so let me know in the comments if you guys want a video on that. But we're gonna end this because I do need to get to sleep. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for the support. I am so happy to be able to make content for you guys every single day. I think we missed a day recently because of technical difficulties, but stuff happens. Either way, thank you guys for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps me out, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.